We all know Spider-Man, Iron Man, the X-Men, the Avengers. But what if I told you that none of that would exist if it weren't for a single story written in 1961? Yes, it all started with a tired, frustrated man and one last chance. Today, I'm going to tell you how Stan Lee, on the verge of quitting comics forever, took the biggest gamble of his life, and how that decision ended up creating Marvel as we know it. Let's set the scene. Stan Lee, the legendary creator of Marvel, wasn't always the icon with funny cameos in every movie. In the 1950s and early 60s, he was just another employee at a modest little publishing house called Atlas Comics. He had spent over a decade writing scripts on command monster stories, cheap sci-fi, cliché romances, stories written in a hurry, following whatever the editors demanded. And even though he got the job done, deep down, he felt like he wasn't doing anything meaningful. And to make things worse, superheroes were out of style. The so-called Golden Age when Superman, Batman, and Captain America were born was over. People wanted something else. Stan, after years of following orders, was burned out. Tired of not having a creative voice? He even considered leaving comics altogether to try his luck writing novels or screenplays for television. But then, someone stepped in. Someone crucial. His wife, Joan Lee. One day, while Stan was venting, saying he couldn't take it anymore, Joan said something that shook him.
You know, Stan, if you want to quit, before you do, why don't you do one book the way you would like to do it? The worst that happens is Martin will fire you, and so what? You want to quit anyway.
And that was the turning point. For the first time, Stan decided to write his story. Not what the editors wanted. Not what was trending. A story with real characters. Characters who felt human, emotional, flawed, conflicted. A story where superheroes weren't perfect. To do that, he needed the best artist he could find. And that's where another giant comes in, Jack Kirby. Kirby wasn't just any illustrator. He was a veteran of the industry, co-creator of Captain America, and a man with a wildly vivid imagination. Together, they started shaping something new. A team of superheroes, yes, but one that functioned like a family that made mistakes, that had egos, jealousy, love, frustration. That's how the Fantastic Four were born. From the very first issue, in November 1961, Fantastic Four broke the rules. No secret identities. No capes, at least not at first. No clean-cut good guys versus bad guys. Instead, we got a group of astronauts exposed to cosmic radiation who gained powers, yes, but also consequences. Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, a brilliant genius, but emotionally distant. Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman, a powerful woman constantly underestimated. Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, young, impulsive, and immature. Ben Grimm, the Thing, the most tragic turned into a monster against his will. And the wildest part? They fought with each other. They argued like siblings, got frustrated. They didn't always want to save the world. Sometimes they couldn't even stand each other. But that made them real. Back then, DC Comics was king. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, all elegant, noble, almost divine, untouchable. The Fantastic Four were the opposite human, imperfect, full of doubt, afraid. And that contrast made all the difference. Because readers, especially young ones, said, "Hey, they're more like me." Suddenly, comics weren't just fantasy. They could talk to you about your fears, your frustrations, your desire to matter. Fantastic Four #1 was an instant success. It didn't just save the company, which would soon be renamed Marvel Comics. It launched a whole new era. Stan and Kirby didn't stop there. In just a few years, they created the Hulk, Thor, Iron Man, the X-Men, Black Panther, the Inhumans, and with Steve Ditko, they introduced Spider-Man, the teenage hero who changed everything all over again. All of that came from a story that almost didn't happen. A story born out of exhaustion and frustration. A story written by a guy who was ready to give up. So, yes, before Marvel became what it is today, before the Avengers, the box office hits, the multiverse, it all began with a man who was ready to walk away. A wife who told him, "Do it your way," and a story that embraced imperfection. And that story was the Fantastic Four. Because sometimes, all it takes to change the world is taking the risk to tell the story the way you really want to tell